The sun was harsh over the dusty alien colony of RX-9. The wind carried dry sand across the ground, and the buildings were nothing more than metal boxes stacked together. Most people here didn't smile. They were tired, poor, and angry at life. John Carter, a human supply officer, had just arrived from Earth. His boots hit the ground with a thud as he stepped out of the cargo ship. He looked around the market square. It smelled of sweat, smoke, and something rotten. He had been to worse places, but this one felt ... sad. As he walked toward the trade center, he noticed something odd. A figure sat by the dusty wall near the station gates, a woman. Her skin was pale blue, her body thin, almost like a skeleton. Her clothes were nothing but torn rags. Her hair was messy, dry, and stuck to her face. She looked weak. Dying even. John slowed down. The alien woman lifted her head slowly. Her eyes were wide and glowing softly like twin moons. She looked straight at him, not like a beggar, not like someone scared, but like someone who had nothing left to lose. "Please," she whispered. Her voice cracked like dry paper. "Please, marry me." John froze in place. "What?" People nearby chuckled and turned their heads. A group of alien traders laughed cruelly. "There she goes again." One shouted, "Begging strangers for marriage, what a joke." "She's lost her mind," another added. "Even trash wouldn't take her." John looked back at the woman. She didn't react to the insults. She kept staring at him, silent, waiting. He walked closer. "Why would you say that? You don't even know me." The woman lowered her head. "I don't need to know you. I only need someone to bond with, or I will die." John didn't understand. "What do you mean?" She didn't answer right away. Her thin fingers played with the torn edges of her dress. Then, in a whisper, she said, "On this planet, a female without a bond has no rights, no food, no place to sleep, no safety. I'm not allowed to live." John frowned. "That's cruel." "It's the law," she said. "My mate died, and now I am nothing." John crouched beside her. "What's your name?" "Nirali," she said softly. He looked into her glowing eyes. There was something in them, pain, yes, but also strength. She wasn't just some crazy beggar. She had once been someone important, and now she was begging strangers to survive. "You don't want to marry me," John said carefully. "I'm just a supply guy, not rich, not powerful." "I don't need power," she replied. "I need safety, a name to carry, a home, even a small one." John stood up. He felt strange, like the wind had shifted, like fate was whispering in his ear. "I'll think about it," he said, unsure why those words left his mouth. She didn't smile. She only nodded once like that. Was more than enough. Later that day, John asked one of the local guards about her. "Oh, that one?" the guard snorted. "She's been around for weeks. Used to live in one of the border villages before raiders hit it. Everyone else either died or fled. She's the last one. No family?" "None," the guard said. "And no male bond. That makes her worse than a stray animal here. We can't even give her water legally." John shook his head. "She asked me to marry her," the guard laughed. "She asks every visitor." "No one said yes, would you?" John didn't answer. He couldn't stop thinking about her eyes. Not just sad, they were silent screams. That night, John lay on the small cot inside his tent. But sleep didn't come. Nirali's voice kept echoing in his head. "Please, marry me." What kind of world forced someone to say that just to stay alive? The next morning, he found her again. She was in the same spot, eyes closed, breathing slowly, like a dying flower. He knelt in front of her and gently placed a small food bar in her hand. She opened her eyes in surprise. "You came back," she whispered. "I did." "Why?" John looked around. No one cared. No one was watching, because maybe you don't belong in the dirt, he said. Maybe you deserve a second chance. A tear slipped from her eye, and she covered her mouth as if afraid to make a sound. I don't know what I'm doing, John said. But maybe we can help each other. You'll take me? She asked. Not yet, he replied. But I want to know more about you. She nodded slowly. Ask anything, human. I will tell you everything. John sat beside her. The sand blew gently across the ground. The colony was still harsh, still broken, but maybe something new had just begun, and he had no idea how deep this decision would pull him in. Asterisk, I used to sing. John blinked. The poor alien woman beside him stared at the rising twin suns. Her voice was quiet, but clear. She didn't look at him as she spoke. I used to sing every morning to my baby. John's heart skipped a beat. They were sitting just outside his small tent on the edge of the colony. Nirali wore a clean blanket he had given her. She still looked weak, but her hands didn't shake as much. She hadn't touched the food he gave her last night. Not until he ate first. She was careful, maybe too careful. Your baby? John asked softly. Nirali finally turned her glowing eyes to him. Yes, my daughter. She had skin like moonlight, soft hair, big eyes like mine. John waited. I was a healer before the 4th of War, not a big one. Just someone who helped birth children, treat fevers, and grow herbs. My mate worked in the solar fields. We didn't have much, but we had enough. She paused. Her hands curled into fists. Then the raiders came. John had heard the stories. Small villages on this planet often got attacked by desert raiders, violent gangs who took slaves, goods, and sometimes worse. Nirl, I single quotes S voice, grew harder. They came at night. We had no weapons, no guards. They burned our homes. Took the strong ones, killed the weak. John looked down. What happened to your daughter? Nirali stared at him, and for the first time, John saw her eyes lose their light. She was sick that week. I hid her under the floorboards. Told her not to move, not to cry. She took a breath. I was captured. Dragged away. I screamed for them to leave her, but they laughed. Silence. John didn't move. The air felt cold even under the suns. I escaped 2 days later when they were drunk. Ran back through fire and smoke. My village. It was gone, everything. My house was broken, the floorboards torn open. Her voice cracked. There was blood. John's jaw tightened. I'm sorry. She nodded slowly. I buried her with my own hands, no priest, no song. Just dirt and silence. John felt something heavy in his chest. He hadn't expected this. He thought she was just another sad case in a cruel world. But now, she felt real, alive, broken. But still standing. What about your mate? He asked. They took him, she said. Strong male. They sell them to fight in pits or work in mines. I searched for him, but no one knew anything. I think he's already gone. John stared at her. This woman had lost everything, and yet she had survived. I'm not asking you to love me, she said, almost in a whisper. I know love doesn't grow like that. But if you give me a name, they will stop hurting me. I can work, I can live, maybe. I can heal again. John didn't speak for a long moment. Then he asked, why me? Why did you pick me to ask for marriage? She smiled. Just a little. Because when I looked at you, you didn't look away. That hit him harder than he expected. Everyone else looked through her like she was garbage. But he hadn't, not because he was trying to be a hero. He was just human. And sometimes, that was enough. Later that day, John went into the colony office and spoke to the local registrar. I want to apply for a temporary bond, he said. The clerk blinked. You're marrying her? Yes, the clerk scoffed. You can just own her. Don't need a bond. She's unclaimed. She's not property, John replied coldly. She's a person, I want her safe by law." The man raised an eyebrow. "Humans are weird." He handed John a datapad. "Sign here. You'll be responsible for her actions. If she steals, lies, or runs, you pay the price." John didn't hesitate. He signed it. That night, Nirali stood in front of his tent, wearing a clean tunic he bought for her. Her head was lowered, hands folded, unsure. "You don't belong to me," John said gently. "But now no one can hurt you." Nirali looked up at him, her eyes shimmering. "Then let me serve you with my hands, my voice, my care." "You don't have to serve," he replied. She tilted her head. "Then let me thank you. In my people's way." She knelt, touched his feet lightly with her hands, then pressed her forehead to the ground. John felt awkward. "You don't have to do that either." "I want to," she whispered. In that quiet moment, under the twin moons, something began. Between them, not love. Not yet. But maybe something stronger. Respect. And far away, in the shadows of the colony, someone watched them, someone who recognized Nirali's face, and they were not happy she was still alive. The silence in the trade center shattered when John entered with Nirali at his side. People stopped talking, eyes turned, hands paused mid-sail. One of the guards whispered, "Is he serious?" Another trader laughed. "The human married her?" "That's rich." But John didn't care. His face was calm. His steps were steady. Nirali walked half a step behind him, eyes down, hands holding the edge of her shawl tightly. Inside the dusty building, the registrar was already waiting. "Well," he said with a smirk, "the bond went through. She's yours now. You sure you know what you're doing? She's not a tool. She's not mine." "We're bonded under law," John said firmly. The clerk laughed again. "That's worse. Now if she causes trouble, you pay." John signed the final document and took the ID tags, one for him, one for her. Then he turned around, and there stood a tall alien with bright yellow skin, long fangs, and a shiny cloak. The room grew quiet again. "That's Trader Vok," someone whispered. "He deals in rare slaves, weapons, and worse." Vok stepped forward, sniffing the air. "So," he said slowly, voice like grinding metal, "the worthless female finally found someone to carry her shame." Nirali flinched. John stepped in front of her. "Leave us alone." Vok chuckled. "Do you even know what she is, human? She's not just poor. She's cursed. She's been through hell," John replied. "That doesn't make her cursed." "Oh no," Vok said, grinning. "It makes her valuable." John narrowed his eyes. "What are you talking about?" Vok leaned in. "She's not some random beggar. She's from the house of Alaran, a bloodline once connected to the throne." John froze. He looked at Nirali. She shook her head slowly, silently begging him not to listen. "If that's true," John said, "why isn't she protected?" "Because her house is gone," Vok hissed. "Burned, erased. Anyone from that bloodline is supposed to be dead." He smiled darkly. "But now you've claimed her, which means they'll come for you too." John stayed silent. Then Vok offered something shocking. "I'll give you something in return for her. 1 bottle of Terran liquor. Rare, expensive. You can leave her behind, no trouble." Everyone around the room stared, waiting. Nirali's body shook. Her eyes watered. She couldn't speak. John didn't even blink. He slowly reached into his bag, pulled out a bottle of Terran liquor, and smashed it on the floor. The crowd gasped. "I'd rather pour it in the dirt," John said coldly, "than trade it for a woman's life." Nirali fell to her knees, covering her mouth, tears streaming silently. Trader Vok snarled. "You've made enemies, human." "No," John replied. "I've made a choice." Later, outside the market building, Nirali sat quietly under the shade. John gave her water. She drank slowly, still shaken. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "Yes, I did," he replied. "Now they'll come after us," she said. John Nodded. I know. She looked at him for a long time. Why? Because you're not trash, he said, and you're not for sale. Nirali reached into the pocket of her shawl. Her hand trembled slightly as she pulled out a small medal. Pin gold, shaped like a flower, dusty and bent. She placed it in his hand. This was the mark of my house, she said. I buried it when my daughter died. I swore I'd never wear it again. John looked at the pin, then at her. But you kept it, he said. Yes, she whispered, because some part of me hoped. John stared at the broken symbol. Hope. Survived, even in a cage of pain. We're leaving the colony tomorrow, he said. Where? She asked, her voice small. Somewhere safer, he answered. Somewhere they can't buy or sell people. Nirali didn't say anything. She just held his hand. And somewhere nearby, a silent message was sent from a shadowy figure. She's alive. The lost daughter lives, and now she's bonded to a human. Asterisk, he woke up in the middle of the night, and she was gone. John sat up fast, sweat on his back, hand reaching for the small knife under his bedroll. The tent was silent. Too silent. Nirali's bedroll was empty. The night outside was cold and black. The stars over Varix 9 shimmered like silent watchers in the sky. He stepped outside, boots crunching the sand. Nirali? He called, voice low. No answer. Then he saw of glowing footprints, barely visible in the dust. Alien prints. Her prints, leading away from the tent. Into the dry forest beyond the colony wall. John followed. Each step felt heavier. Something was wrong. Not just strange wrong. The trees here were thin and sharp like needles. The wind whistled through them. Insects buzzed somewhere out of sight. The moonlight gave everything a ghostly color. Then he heard a voice. Not hers. A deep, harsh voice. She doesn't know you're here, does she? John dropped low behind a fallen tree. His eyes peeked through the brush. Nirali stood in a small clearing. She wasn't wearing her blanket or shawl. She was dressed in dark armor. Light armor. Flexible. Tactical. She didn't look weak. She looked dangerous. A hooded alien man stood in front of her, holding a small device in his hand. She bonded with a human? The man growled. That's your plan? It's the only way to survive, Nirali answered, her voice colder than John had ever heard. They're looking for me. He's a shield. John's heart pounded. A shield? Was that all he was? The man hissed. You said you'd lay low, not get attached. I didn't mean to, she said. Her voice cracked just a little. But he's kind. The man lowered his hood. He was older, scarred, and one eye was cybernetic. You're still the same girl, he said softly. Soft inside. Not soft, she said. Just tired of hiding. John didn't know what to think. She had lied. She wasn't just a poor widow. She wasn't weak. She had armor. She had contacts. And she was using him. But when he looked closer, her hands were shaking. Her shoulders looked heavy. She wasn't cold-hearted. She was just afraid. John stepped on a twig. It snapped under his boot. Both heads turned toward him. Nirali, he called, standing up. We need to talk, she gasped. John. The man pulled a knife. Don't, John warned. I don't want to fight. The man didn't move, but Nirali stepped between them. Stop, she told the older man. He won't hurt me, and I won't let you hurt him. John walked into the clearing, hands raised. His voice was calm, but firm. So, you're not who you said you were. Nirali looked down. No. And the poor, begging woman outside. The colony wall, was that fake too? Her eyes met his. No, that was real. But it wasn't the whole truth. They sat together in silence after the other man left. He disappeared into the woods without a word. Back at the tent, John stared into the small fire. Nirali sat across from him, pulling her shawl tight around her again, like she wanted to shrink back into her old self. Talk, John said simply. She nodded. I was trained when I was young, she began. My family wasn't just noble. We were guardians of an ancient order. Keepers of knowledge, old secrets. We knew things most people forgot. What kind of things? He asked. Things people kill for, she said. I don't understand, John replied. My daughter, my mate, my village, she said, tears building again. They weren't just taken by raiders. They were targeted because of me. She looked up at him. I've been running for years, hiding, changing names. I thought if I stayed small, poor, weak, they'd stop hunting me. But they didn't, John said. No, she whispered. Because I carry something inside me, a code, a key. I don't even know how it works, but someone believes I can unlock it. John let out a long breath. And bonding with me? He asked. That part started as a shield, she admitted. But now, she stood, walked to him, and knelt beside him. It's more than that. John didn't speak. He just looked at her. Finally, he said, You should have told me. I was afraid, she whispered. You still are. Yes. He looked into her eyes, and this time he didn't see a liar. He saw someone who had carried the weight of 1,000 secrets, and was finally breaking. Far above, a satellite blinked red, and somewhere deep in space, a signal was received. A voice answered. Target confirmed. Alien female still alive. Human bond detected. Prepare extraction. The file wasn't supposed to exist, but it did. John stared at the blinking terminal in the backroom of the colony records office. The lights flickered. The screen buzzed. He had hacked into a restricted archive using a stolen admin code, and now he wished he hadn't, because right in front of him was a classified file labeled Project Ilaran Royal Blood Danger Level Red. John clicked it open. There she was, Nerali's face, but not poor, not dirty, not weak. She stood tall and royal. Armor, her head held high, standing beside her mate and a small child in her arms. Under her photo, one line made his stomach twist. Subject contains dormant biological key capable of activating ancient technology from the first galactic age. John whispered, What the hell are you? Back at the tent, Nerali was waiting, watching the horizon. She looked calm, but something inside her felt cold, like a storm was coming. Like the past she buried was digging its way back up. John returned quietly, his eyes sharp. You said you don't know what the code is, he said. I don't, she replied. Then why does a government file say you're the key to activating first age tech? Her face went pale. You read that? She whispered. He nodded. Tell me the rest. She sat down slowly. My bloodline. We were caretakers of the Ancient's Gate, a door no one could open. For centuries, people tried. Warlords, scientists, priests, but nothing worked. She looked into the fire. Until I was born, John frowned. What happened? When I turned 5, she said. The gate glowed for the first time in history when I touched it. They believed I could open it one day, she continued. So they trained me, protected me, hid me. And then the killing started. John stayed quiet. They wanted me alive. But they didn't want my family. My house fell. My people were scattered, and I ran. I've been running ever since. John sat beside her. And your daughter? He asked carefully. She had the same glow in her hands, Nerali said, voice shaking. I think that's why they came. I buried her before they could study her. Her eyes filled with tears. I thought, if I disappeared, it would all stop. John reached out and gently took her hand, but it didn't. No, she whispered. Now they know you're alive. Again, he said. I found a tracking signal. Someone sent your location into space. Her eyes widened in fear. We have to run. Run where? He asked. She looked down. I don't know. John stood. His voice was steady. Then we stop running. She looked up at him confused. What do you mean? I mean we fight. That night, John went to a secret workshop outside the colony, a hidden place owned by an old friend. A half-robot mechanic named Grizz. Grizz frowned as John handed him the data chip with Nerali's file. You got yourself in deep trouble. Human, Grizz said. She trusted me, John replied. Now I have to protect her. Grizz looked at the file again. This woman. Is she really can open first? Age tech, she's worth more than any treasure in the galaxy. She's not a tool, John said firmly. She's someone's mother. Someone's wife. Someone who's lost everything, Grizz sighed. You're too noble for this world. Just help me, John said. Grizz nodded. All right. I'll hide her, but you'll need to leave the colony fast. Ships are coming, big ones. How long do we have? John asked. Grizz checked the scanner. Maybe one rotation. Maybe less. Back in the tent, Nerali packed silently. She was shaking. John walked in. She looked at him and whispered, I'm scared. He held her close. Me too. But I don't want to run anymore, she said. I want to live. We will. He promised. Together, suddenly boom, the ground shook. A fireball lit up the colony wall. Sirens wailed. Screams filled the air. Ships were landing. Too late. They were here. From above, black steel dropships descended. Soldiers in silver armor stormed the ground. One of them held a picture Nerali's face. Target confirmed, he said into his. Come, bring the human too. They bonded. He might know the code. Asterisk, let me go, John. Nerali's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. Outside, the colony burned. John stood with his back to the tent's thin wall, holding a stolen blaster. His chest was rising fast. Smoke slipped in through the seams. The ground shook again as another drop pod hit the far edge of the compound. No, he said. If they catch you with me, she whispered, they'll kill you. Then I'll die standing next to you. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She had cried enough in this life. Instead, she took a step closer and reached for the blaster in his hand. You don't have to fight for me. John, I've survived worse. John looked her in the eyes. I'm not fighting for you, he said. I'm fighting for us. Minutes earlier, the colony streets had turned into chaos. Dropships fell like black stars from the sky. Soldiers in armor flooded the streets. Scanning every face, people screamed. Some ran, some hid. Others pointed toward the outskirts, toward the human and his alien wife. Inside the command tent, Grizz slammed a hidden switch. A trapdoor opened. Tunnel to the old mines, he said. It'll take you far enough to escape. John shook his head. We won't run anymore, Grizz growled. Then you're crazy. No, John said. I'm done letting others decide who lives and who dies. Back at the tent, Nerali knelt beside a small metal case. She opened it and revealed the armor John had seen before in the forest. This isn't just armor, she said. It's part of the key they want. She tapped a hidden button, and the armor lit up, glowing faintly with ancient symbols. John stared at it. What does it unlock? I don't know, she said. But I think it listens to will, to choice. That's why they're afraid of me. John looked at the armor, then at her. What if it listens to both of us? He asked. Nerali blinked. What do you mean? We bonded. Maybe that means something. Maybe we are the key now. Outside, metal boots hit the sand. The soldiers moved closer. One raised a speaker. Alien female. Human male. You are harboring dangerous genetic data. Surrender immediately. John glanced at Nerali. She nodded. Together they stepped out of the tent. The soldiers raised their weapons. But something stopped them. The moment Nerali stepped into the open, her body began to glow. The armor pieces on her activated, floating around her like pieces of light. Her eyes shimmered gold. John stood beside her. A soft hum came from his Chester's ID tag was glowing too. "What's happening?" he whispered. Nerali's voice was soft but certain. "It's accepting you too." The lead soldier shouted, "Target is activating ancient tech. Take them." Shots fired. Nerali raised her hand and a shockwave exploded from her palm, throwing soldiers backward like leaves in a storm. John didn't understand what was happening, but he didn't care. He held her hand. They ran. Through the smoke they pushed forward. Toward the mountains. Toward the place Nerali had once fled from. The gate. It stood like a forgotten god carved into the rock massive, covered in runes, sealed for generations. "We don't have time," John shouted. But Nerali didn't slow down. "This is what they feared," she said. "Not just me, not just the key." She turned to him. "They feared what we could do, together." She stepped forward. The gate lit up. And for the first time in hundreds of years, it opened. A low hum echoed through the valley. The sky above changed color. A beam of light rose from the earth, and the soldiers chasing them fell to their knees, screaming as their weapons burned in their hands. The gate didn't just unlock a door. It unlocked power. Old power. Forgotten power. Power waiting for someone brave enough to choose hope over fear. John stood in the light, breathless. Nerali turned to him. "You could have left me." "I never wanted to," he said. "You were the first person to look at me. Like I wasn't broken." "You're not broken," he replied. "You're just not finished," she smiled. And for once, it wasn't sad. It was real. Far above, in the deepest part of space, a dark figure watched the data stream. The gate had opened. And now, everything would change. They were no longer just husband and wife. They were now a symbol. On the other side of the gate, the world was quiet. Ancient stone paths, glowing trees, and towers that touched the clouds. The wind didn't feel like wind. It felt alive. Nerali stood in the center of the crystal floor, wrapped in armor that shimmered like starlight. Beside her, John, dusty, bruised, holding her hand, stared in wonder. "We're inside a city that hasn't been touched in 10,000 years, he whispered. Nerali nodded. "They called it the heart of the First Age. My ancestors were meant to protect it. And now?" he asked. She turned to him, voice calm but strong. "Now we decide what to do with it." Outside, the army waited, but something had changed. Gate would not open for them. The soldiers that survived were scared. Their weapons had short-circuited. Their leader was unconscious, and their machines refused to move closer. Something inside was protecting John and Nerali, now a field of light. A barrier of thought. And the signal from the ancient city was spreading across the stars. Systems were receiving alerts, governments panicking, leaders shouting. The gate has opened, and it belongs to a human and a lost heir. Back inside, Nerali found the Hall of Judgment. It had carvings, lights, and a throne made of stone and skyglass. John stepped beside her. "You could rule them all, couldn't you?" She looked at the throne, then back at him. "No, that's not why I came here." "Then what do you want?" She walked up to the center platform. The moment her foot touched the core, the entire city lit up. Stars danced on the walls. A voice, ancient and soft, spoke in both their minds. One bloodline, one bond, two wills, joined by choice. Command received. John looked at her in shock. "It recognizes our marriage." Nerali smiled. "It doesn't want power. It wants unity." She reached for his hand again. "We opened the gate together. Let's rule, together, but not with armies. With hope." News spread fast. Some called it madness, a human and a fallen alien noble controlling First Age power. Others called it a miracle. Refugees, outcasts, broken people from across the colonies began walking toward the gate, toward the city, toward the only place where a beggar and a stranger were now royalty by bond. Weeks later, John stood before a growing crowd. Aliens of all shapes and colors gathered. Nerali stepped up beside him in ceremonial robes, no longer torn, no longer hiding. Her head held high. Her glow no longer a secret. John looked out across the people. "I'm just a man," he said. "I didn't have power, or land, or title, but I had a choice. I chose to give one broken woman my name. And she gave me back the stars." The crowd stood silent, listening. "I didn't save her. She saved me. She taught me that love is not weakness. It is the strongest force in the galaxy." He turned to her, and the moment froze. He placed a simple ring knot, made of gold, but of gate-forged silver, on her finger. "From this day forward," he said, "you are not alone." Nerali smiled and placed her hand on his heart. "And neither are you." Some say the city became the center of peace. Others say it became a threat feared by the old powers. But the people who lived there told a different story, they said. The gate didn't open because of blood. It opened because one human man saw a forgotten woman in rags and chose to love her.